quick way to tell if something is solid brass or brass plated. Brass is a beautiful metal for home decor and home furnishing products. If an item looks brass, it is usually either solid brass or brass plated. One of the easiest ways to tell if an item is solid brass is by first the visual test to ensure it has a golden yellow color like brass. The next non-invasive test is the magnetic test, where the magnet is placed on the object. If the magnet does not stick, it is solid brass. It is probably brass plated if it sticks. You can also scratch the top finish off with a sharp object. If it is shiny yellow underneath, it is probably solid brass. If it has metal underneath, it is brass plated. Top 3 quickest ways to tell if something is solid brass. Brass is a popular metal used for centuries in various applications, including jewelry, decorative items, and hardware. However, determining whether something is made of solid brass or not can be a bit tricky, especially for those who are not familiar with the metal. Fortunately, there are some simple tests that you can perform to quickly determine if an object is a solid brass or not. If you have an object and you are unsure if it is solid brass or even brass at all, there are 3 basic tests you can take to test your object to see if it is solid brass or brass plated. Below are 3 top ways to tell whether or not your object is solid brass or brass plated. Use the visual color test for brass. A visual color test is the quickest way to tell if something is brass. It may not be brass if it doesn't look like the brass color or is not a golden yellow color. Also, if the brass has oxidized and become dark, it can still be solid brass and may need a polish to get it to its original color. Put magnet next to brass. Another quick and easy test to check to see if it is brass is to put a magnet on top of it, the brass. It does not need to be a fancy magnet. You can use a magnet from your refrigerator. Solid brass is not magnetic. If the magnet sticks to your brass, it is either brass plated or another metal. Solid brass will not stick to any magnet and has no magnetic properties. Scratch the surface area to see if solid brass. Also, scratch the surface area to see what is underneath. If you see a shiny yellow under the metal, the item is likely a solid brass piece. On the other hand, if you see a silver scratch, your piece is likely metal, such as zinc. Solid brass versus brass plated. There are some differences between solid brass and brass plated. Here are some of the significant differences and answers to each material. What is solid brass? One of the great things about brass is that it can be cast, spun, forged, wrought, and even die cut. Brass has long been the preferred metal for fine furniture and accessories, hardware, lighting fixtures, lamps, fireplace equipment, candle holders, and many other decorative accessories. Brushed brass finish. A brushed brass finish is a textured surface treatment that uses fine abrasives to create a series of small, parallel lines or scratches on the surface of the brass. This process creates a muted, matte appearance that is less reflective than polished brass and gives the metal a more contemporary, industrial look. Hand-rubbed finished brass or oiled brass. A hand-rubbed or oiled brass finish is achieved by applying a thin layer of oil to the brass surface and rubbing it in with a cloth. This process creates a rich, warm patina that enhances the natural beauty of the brass and gives it a more vintage, antique look. Hand-rubbed or oiled brass is often used in traditional or classic decor and is popular in furniture, lighting, and hardware. Antique finished brass. Antique finished brass is a type of surface treatment that mimics the appearance of aged, vintage brass. It is achieved by applying chemical and mechanical treatments to the brass surface, including oxidation, polishing, and brushing. Bronze finished brass. Bronze finished brass is a surface treatment that gives brass a darker, more bronze-like appearance. It is achieved by applying a bronze-colored patina or lacquer layer to the brass surface. This process creates a warm, muted finish often used in traditional or rustic decor and is popular in lighting, hardware, and furniture. Verdigris brass finish. Verdigris brass is a surface treatment that creates a greenish-blue patina on brass. It is achieved by exposing the brass to a combination of oxygen, moisture, and acid, which causes the metal to oxidize and develop a distinctive green color. What is brass plated? On the other hand, brass plated is, as the name implies, a small amount of brass that has been put or plated on top of another piece of metal. Brass plating started to be experimented with as far back as the 1600s, but it was not until the 1920s that electroplating began to be used as a solution to brass. So the chances are if you have an item you know is older than the 1920s, it is solid brass, and if after the 1920s, it could be solid brass or brass plated. The brass is usually plated on steel or a white metal like zinc, to which molecules of brass are electroplated onto the surface. A lacquer top coat is often placed on the surface to ensure the brass plating will not deteriorate over time. Sometimes you can remove the lacquer top coat and polish or refinish the brass underneath. Other times it can damage the finish, and the piece will need to be replated. Many products produced today that look like solid brass is brass plated. The reason is that brass plating is becoming so good that it is tough to tell what brass plated is and what solid brass is. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. To find out more about how Mondoro can help you create, develop, and manufacture excellent home decor and furniture products, don't hesitate to contact us at sales@mondoro.com. To know more about us, check our social media below.